Hey guys, it's Clarice, and in this video we are going to learn a very simple and fun trick to getting looser in your loose watercolor florals. So the brushes I'm using are Princeton Neptune number 6 and the round 2 and then angled number 1 from the Zen Art Supplies miniature brush set. And then I've got my set of White Knights 36 right here, and we're going to be using a combination of cadmium red light, golden, and then any sort of green for your greenery. All right, so here we go. Let's get started. So I'm going to be using the number 6 to lay down tiny strokes, or not even tiny, just regular strokes for my flower. And then I will be going in with the number 1 and really adding in the color so it gives us a nice flare. Oh, and before we continue, the paper I am using is the Bao Hong hot press. All right, so here we go. So just to give you an idea of what kind of strokes I'm looking to get, I'm just going to take this rough sheet that I have here, and these are the strokes that I'm initially going to be putting down. So I've got some color on here so you can see better. So just kind of like loose strokes like this, right? Just to kind of indicate petals in just a very loose manner. Okay, so can you see that? Yeah, there you go. All right, so now using water, I'm just going to go ahead and add those kind of strokes. So I'll do one here. And then tapering down there to the bottom. Oh, and I just want to do a couple in the background too, as background petals. Okay, now going in with the 1, I'm going to get that cadmium red light, and I'm just going to go start from the side first and just add a stroke this way. And then add tinier little strokes on the outer bits. Then do another one here, and you see how that color immediately just sort of flares up into the flower. In areas like here, we just want to add a couple of tiny strokes to kind of give nice movement to our flower. And before we move on to the next color, getting more, I'm going to add some just in the background petals, like I mentioned earlier that I was adding to the flower. All right, and now that I have that, I'm just going to judge this up, fluff this up a little bit in the background here, just adding a couple of dots before we move on to our second color. So now I'm going to get the golden, and I'm going to do something very similar using the same brush. I am adding a couple of strokes in between these guys here. And time is of the essence here, guys, because you need to make sure that things are still nice and damp to get this nice, pretty sort of blend happening. So practice or play around with this technique, and you will find that when you sit down to paint, whatever you learn from this practice, you will have like a much better understanding of how watercolor works when you sit down to actually paint. All right, so here we go. So we've done our flower. It's this cute little guy. If you want to intensify the center there, I'm just taking the original, the cadmium red light, and I'm just adding it to the center of this, just so we've got a nice indication of where our center is. And notice I've left that white space there. I'm just going to add some down at the bottom here, and then we move on to our green. Just adding a couple of strokes here and there to kind of really make this a nice fun flower. Okay, so for the green, I've got a ton of leftover green, so I'm going to use this brush to kind of draw in my stem. So what I'm doing is I'm going to first start off by doing a couple of strokes, pulling down the orange cadmium red light from there, and then we're going to go into adding the stem. Now, because this is a number 1 brush, you're going to get a nice thin stem. If you feel like you want to intensify the thickness, just go over it again and you can make it thicker. Now, to the edge of the flower, I like to add a darker hue of green just so we get a nice blend of hues happening. So that's what I'm doing there. Then just dipping in water, I'm just going to lightly add loose strokes to kind of fill the stem. Okay, moving on, see how loose it is at the bottom. Fight the urge to try and perfect that. So now we move on to doing our leaves. So I'm going to use the angled brush for the leaves. And again, using my leftover green, something along the lines of chromium oxide from the White Nights set. And I'm just going to add this, and then using the tip of that, I'm just going to pull it downward and create these cute little strokes, loose strokes to indicate a leaf. Whimsical, soft, and pretty. So you see how light this is? Just go in with a darker green and you can add like a second hue happening into the leaf, which will intensify the color, giving it a little bit of dimension. You can keep your leaves simple if you want to. Simple is always best. Something like this, like just doing that and then just a couple that way. So 2 different kinds of leaves for you to try with this. Both work, both are fun, and both kind of give you something different in terms of results. All right, so that is that. Hope you guys enjoyed this. Let me know in the comments what you thought and tag me in your work. I would love to see it. And here's a close-up. It's cute, right? Short and sweet. Thanks guys for watching.